Background by Third Eye Blind, one of my favorite songs of all time. We're going to be in dad fads, so D, A, D, F sharp, A, and D. So the intro to this song is a little obscure. It's not entirely clear. You can hear certain pull-offs and hammer-ons, and it's not crucial to the song as a whole, but to be true to it, I wanted to include it. It only requires two chords. The first one is 0-5-4 on the D, A, and the D string, and then 5-2-0. And that one's a bit of a reach. That pinky is really working for it. But for this part, all we do is we alternate back and forth between those two chords, throwing in occasional hammer-ons and pull-offs. I'll put up the tab, which is not strict law. Feel free to, again, be rather loose with it. Most of the hammer-ons are during the first chord. First one we do is a hammer-on from 4 to 5 on the A string. Then we'll go down to 5-2-0. The only hammer-on we do in this chord, fortunately, because this is the hardest one to hit, is on the A string to the 2nd fret from open. And the really tough thing about hitting this chord is you want to keep this the D string open so that that is also ringing when playing, and it's tough to do with your pointer finger on the 2nd fret there. So it is a big reach, like I was mentioning earlier. But the only hammer-on we do down here is from open to 2nd. We go back up, and then we slide down and we do two pull-offs from the D and the A string. Go back. We do back to the first chord. And then on the last time on the first chord, we go on that D string there. And we go back down. And again, in the tab, I tried to put in some of that filler stuff that I do, but again, you can interpret and insert what you'd like, where you'd like. I think the main thing is to focus on some of those pull-offs and hammer-ons. As those are the most audible. And then we get into the main riff of the song that's very recognizable. All we're doing is we're going back and forth between pure open strumming, and then we're going to hit this chord here, which is 5-5-5 on those low bass strings, and strum all 6 strings again. You want to keep your strumming nice and loose. You don't want to be attacking the strings too much. Just keep it nice and even. And then in between those two chords, we have that hammer-on followed by a pull-off. So our right hand is plucking just once, and our left hand is doing all the work. And we're going to hit the 4th fret of the B string. E. And when you hit this chord, I would suggest, of course, hitting it with these 3 fingers, and that when you go into the hammer on the next time, if you'd like, you can leave these 3 strings or these 3 fingers there as an anchor, and hit the hammer on with those in place. instead of lifting off like this, you can leave them there. Just to give a little bit more support, because when you hit that hammer on, you're kind of floating. And if you're not very well conditioned with the song, then you can miss it. Or just kind of hit it weak. So having that anchor there can help you to more securely hit that hammer on. When you're hitting the hammer on from the open position, I'll put my left hand on the back of the neck here, just to, again, provide that support so that I'm not just floating out here in midair and just hoping and praying that I hit the hammer on correctly. So that's another way to anchor yourself when you're doing that. And we go back and forth between those two chords for a while. When he starts singing, he doesn't do the hammer on. Everything is quiet. And I suggest here switching to a bar. And you're not going to very easily be able to avoid the open strings when doing this, which is fine, because I think it's probably more important to do this little sequence he does here. So that's why, again, I suggest switching to a bar so that you can use your pinky or your ring finger to fill in that sequence there. If we isolate that riff and play that string exclusively, we get this. And then when we switch to strumming it, our right hand has to get a little bit more active. There's going to be quite a bit of ups and downs strumming that you'll need to sort of feel out. One thing that I do know a lot of people seem to focus on when learning guitar is when to do up and down strokes. And that can be beneficial. I think at the same time while doing that, it's very easy to get caught in your head when playing a song and focusing, okay, this is an up and a down. And the brain sometimes just isn't fast enough to process, okay, I need to do ups and down, up, down, down, up. I think it's very easy to get, again, in your head. I never think about what I'm doing with regard to ups and down strokes. I just play what I feel. And if you think about what someone is doing when they're writing a song, they're not thinking about, okay, I need to do an upstroke here and a downstroke here. They're playing what they feel. So when learning a song that involves strumming, I suggest just playing what you feel. And most likely you're going to duplicate what they did, because that's all they were doing. When they were tabbing out their song, they didn't sit there and write, okay, U here and D here for up and down. They're just playing what they feel. So if you focus on doing that when learning the song, you're most likely going to duplicate what they do. So don't get too much in your head about ups and down strokes, especially with a song like this and that little riff that we're learning here. At the end of the first verse, there's a little bass line that I like to add in as well. Again, when I'm playing a song with acoustic guitar, especially a song that's done with a full band, I like to try and make use of the guitar as much as possible, in as many ways as possible, and that I'm capable of, to reproduce the sound that they do in the original. And so this is probably not played, it's not played by the guitar, it's played by bass, but including it is not that much extra work. So it's the, so he goes, I live in the numbness now in the background. And that's just a bass line, little walk down from 12 to 11 to 9 to 7, open 5. So we go. And as I'm doing that, I am including all of the, well, not all of them, but a couple of the additional open strings to just amplify what's going on in the background. So, and I end on that bar with the 5, 5, 5 frets. And in the tab, you'll probably notice here, I put in some little squigglies because I think one of the most annoying things is to read a tab that was written for strumming. It's very difficult to read top down every chord. And when tabs aren't including rhythm, which they don't, it's very difficult to make sense of all those numbers on top of each other. So I focus on the most important ones, and I leave the strumming up to you to do as you like and be free with. So that's when you see those squigglies in there, basically all that I'm saying is strum it as you like, and add in the notes that you like, especially when dealing with these open chords. So as I'm doing this bass line, I'm probably focusing on the strings in the middle, and occasionally I'll grab the higher ones. And so feel free to do the same, of course. After the bass line, we go into some harmonics, which are really, really cool, fun to play with. And if you haven't worked with harmonics before, all you're doing is you're touching a string at a particular spot. Generally, it's right over a fret. And the great thing about it is once you hit the note, once you get the harmonic, you don't actually have to keep your left hand in place. You're free to remove your hand and you still get the note. So it's like getting an open note, but it did require the left hand to get it. And what they're doing here is they're getting harmonics with all of the strings at once. And the first one is over the 12th fret. The 12th fret, because it's the exact midpoint of the string, is, I don't know if you can hear that, but this note is the same as this one. Anyway, so little side note, but the 12th fret harmonic is the easiest and loudest to hit. So the next one is the 7th fret. Yeah. And similarly, where you hit the harmonic on the 7th fret for all strings. So they do a little bit of a strumming action there. And that's done a couple times throughout the song. It's just a nice little flair to add. When you're in an open tuning like we are with DADF, you are able to do that and get full-on chords. I don't know what the chords would be. When you're in standard tuning, you can certainly do it, but it doesn't sound as good. So something to include there. So we have our bass line. Go back into the next verse. After the second verse, it starts to build a little bit, and we are going to use some new chords now. We're going to be on the 7th fret, hitting the 7th fret of the low D string, the middle D string, and our F sharp. And I suggest using these 3 fingers to do that. We'll talk about why here in a second. So keep your pointer finger free. This is when he's singing, "The plans I made still have you in them." It's the same chord all the way through with a strumming pattern that you like. And then we slide up to the next chord, which is going to be 9, the same strings, same 3 strings, but 9, 9, and 8. And this is why I suggested using these 3 fingers here, because when we go up to this chord, all we need to do is lift our pinky and replace our pointer finger on the 8th fret of that same string. So you come, the plans I made still have you in them, 'cause you come swimming into view. So again, open free strumming there, and we go to our 3rd chord, which is going to be the same 3 strings with the 12th fret. Again, we're going to go back to keeping our pointer finger free. The first time we hit the chord, we are going to have that left-handed fingering, and then the second time, I add in the 10th fret on what is originally the B string. So we have, and that's just because in the song you can hear it's probably an additional guitar that's being added in there, but we can add that note in there to make it sound a little bit more full and interesting. So we hit that, and we basically repeat the 9th fret chord and that 12th fret chord 3 times with the strumming pattern that, you know, we have our squigglies there so you can see. So we repeat those 2 chords 3 times, and then we go into our 5th fret chord. Carry you on in the background. We'll go on to the next part. But to repeat this part, we'll start off on the 7th fret. The plans I made still have you in them, 'cause you come swimming into view, and I'm hanging on your words like I always used to do. The words that you so lively, I only feel for you. I only know because I carry you background. And then we have another bass line. It's different from the other one that we did. It's going to be, we're going to start off with an open chord, and then the 4th fret, we're going to slide up to the 11th fret. So we're going to come shy of the 12th fret, which is where we started on the last one, and come only up to the 11th. So to not get those 2 confused. Then down to the 9, 7, open, 5. And again, feel free to include those extra open strings as you like. Maybe you want to do just the bass line, or maybe you do want to include those extra chords. It's up to you, of course. Finish, we play through that bass line twice, and then we do our harmonics again. For the 3rd verse, we go back into the same progression that we learned at the beginning with open strumming, and then the 5th fret with our little sequence. And we do that as many times as required. There is one difference, however, at the end of this verse, while he's singing, and this can be a little bit tough to get comfortable with, they throw in the 9th fret chord followed by harmonics. So instead of going, it goes up here instead of to the 5th fret. So I felt you long after we were through, when we were through. So I'll play that one more time. I felt you long after we were through, when we were through. So that can take a little bit of getting used to, because it's not the flowy strumming that we're doing. We're doing and singing while doing that. On the second build-up, this is when we do crescendo into the very explosive, awesome part of the song, when they flip on the electric guitar, the distortion, and they just go wild with it. So we did learn this part already. It's going to be the 7th fret. I may still have the 3 repetitions of these 2 chords. And so we won't go over that again. One thing that I will throw in there, though, is right before they flip the switch, I like to add in one of these. So it ends on the 5th fret. Carry you in the background. So on ground, you start from the 1st fret or wherever, and you just do a slide as far up as you like. And then without really getting to any conclusive point, you just lift off and you throw the hard chord there. So in the background, and we go into the, which unfortunately on acoustic guitar sounds a little anticlimactic, but it's still way fun to play. So again, that's just a little flair that I like to include. So after we flip the switch and he starts singing again, we go back to our 7th fret chord, strum this a couple times, and then we go into a slightly different progression here than we had learned earlier. So we're going to hit our 9th fret chord here, and it's when he's singing, then you come swimming into you. So the strumming there is, then you come swimming into you. So when we hit this open chord, there is another guitar in the background that's doing this solo. So what I like to do is, again, to try to produce as much sound as possible from my guitar. While I'm hitting that open chord, I'll throw down the 12th fret. And I'll hit the 14th fret at the very end of that. And unfortunately, I'm not skilled enough and my hands are not big enough to do that, to do the entire solo while strumming those 3 chords. Because, I mean, I'm here and I'm way up there at the same time. So all I'm able to add is the 12th and the 14th fret. But I'll play through that and show you what I mean. It's a really small addition to make, but I like to include it because I think it sets the listener up to fill in the parts that aren't there, that I'm not able to provide. It's a very subtle little addition again. So, and one little trick for doing that, because it can be difficult to throw the 14th fret down and then quickly get to this hand position on the 9th fret. So what I do is I put my middle finger on the 9th fret and I hit that hard enough to produce the note, and then that gets the first beat of the chord down, and then eventually I throw down the 9th and the 8th fret of the other strings when I get to strumming it. So just a little tip, because it's a little bit difficult to go from here and there in the amount of time that you have. If I were to do that a couple times, I would inevitably miss it. Right there. That's what I got instead of. And I talk about this in some of my other videos, but it's a little bit of a guitar technique or trick to build the chord with your left hand as you need it. And that's what I'm doing there. And we repeat that sequence of chords twice. And on the second repetition, when he's singing, I'm not doing the that extra 12th and 14th fret soloing part. I'm only doing that on the first repetition. Just a little side note. And then for the ending, we just go to our 5th fret chord and we just do simple downstrokes and we just slow it down as we go. I'm way in the background. I'm in the background. And then we end with our hammer on.